Okay, so for episode 3, it's just going to be me talking a little bit about some things that I feel are important, or definitely were important in my life. Number one, I started this thing, started recording it, and I re-recorded the beginning and the opening like a million times. I didn't really know how I wanted to start, how I wanted to open. Do I want to discuss my background? Do I want to discuss like all these different things that I read when I was preparing for this? But instead, I just want to talk about like basic things, just super basic things. Number one, first and foremost, is control. I feel like on some level, every person wants to feel like they have some type of control over their life. And I also feel like there are people who don't feel like they have control over their life. There's a million reasons why people might feel like they don't have control over their life. If you feel as though mental illness could be a potential reason why you might be feeling out of control. Maybe, it's not just finances. Maybe it's not just social connections. Maybe it's not just these external things. Maybe you feel like it's something a little bit more inside of you. Then it could be helpful to discuss that with somebody, to talk with somebody about that. It might not be easy though. It might be very difficult to do. That is where, for me, pride comes in. Not so much in the sense that you're too proud to admit that you might need help, but you're too proud to admit that you're not in control of your life. You're not in control of the things that you want to be or you feel like you should be in control of. And you might not have the answers as to why. You might not be able to just fix it yourself. You might not be able to just put a smile on. You might not be able to just. And you might be a little bit too proud to admit that. For me, I know that it was a long time coming to overcome the pridefulness in myself, to be able to admit that I can't control everything myself and that I wasn't able to control the things that I needed to be able to control in my life without some type of help. So my first point that I wanted to discuss was admitting that you might need help, because I think that's important. And it sometimes is a sacrifice. You might have to sacrifice a little bit of yourself in the sense of a little bit of your pride, a little bit of your ego, to say, I might not have all the answers, and it might take more than just what I can do to get me to where I need to be. Now, that's not something that might be forever thing. You might just need help to turn a corner, and then once you're on the right road, you're good to go. But admitting that you might need that help, I think, is just super duper important. Now, going one step further than that, admitting that you need help, you need to admit that to yourself, obviously, but you also need to admit it to somebody else. You need to ask for help, because acknowledging that you need help is obviously important, but you need to do something about that. And that's going to be a theme that I probably go back to a million times throughout this. You need to do something. You need to do something. Now you know that you need help. Now it's time to reach out to somebody. It might not be a friend or a close relative or somebody that you have too personal of a relationship with, because you're embarrassed to talk about those things with those people. You might need to speak to somebody who you don't know. That is a professional who might have more information than the people that you know in your personal life. You need to be able to feel comfortable asking for help. And again, that's a sacrifice of pride. It really is. It's a sacrifice of pride to be sitting in a waiting room, waiting to talk to a therapist for the first time, looking around, wondering if people are judging you, not realizing that everybody's in the same place for the same reason. I've been in that situation where I'm sitting there, and it's important to be able to overcome that pride and realize that we're all just people, and different people need different things to make their life complete. The third big step to overcome is to actually accept help when that help is given. When you admit that you need help and then you ask somebody and they extend some sort of help to you, it's important to be willing to accept that help. It might not be exactly the way you want it to be in order to get to where you want to go. I think a lot of people have a picture of, okay, well, if I just do this, or if things just work out this way, I'll be happy. But that's very often an ideal situation, or a nice wish. It's not how things might need to really go in order for you to even get to a starting point where you can achieve the things that you want to achieve. Accepting the help is incredibly important. And once again, it is a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice of pride. It's a sacrifice of ego to do things that might be outside of your comfort zone, because you do need to change. In these types of situations, the change is the thing that's going to get you from where you are to where you need to be, or where you want to be. So accepting the help that's offered to you. Now, that doesn't mean do whatever people say to do. That's absolutely a point that I need to make. You can't just blindly go along with things, because there are situations where your best interest may not be in mind of the people who are telling you to do things. So you need to still be aware of yourself, and you still need to trust your gut, and you need to trust your heart, and you need to remember to do the things that are important for you. But why are you doing this, right? Why? You're depressed, you feel worthless, you feel like nobody cares about you, you feel lonely, you feel anxious all the time, you feel like you can't be comfortable around people. There's a million different ways, a million different emotions, a million different situations that people find themselves in. Emotional, psychological situations where they feel disconnected, they feel hopeless, they feel alone. So why are you going through the trouble of admitting that you need help and asking for help and accepting? Why? The question I have for you is, are you experiencing life, or do you feel like life is happening to you? Are you fully into your life, living it to its fullest, or do you feel like things are just happening to you? These things happen to me, and that you don't have any type of control, you don't have any type of say, you don't have any type of ability to affect the things that are happening in the world around you. I think it's important to understand that you do have control, you do have the ability to change things. But why? At the heart of everything, I feel, and this is just me, I feel as though it's important to find purpose. It's an easy word to say, purpose, but a very difficult one to really wrap your head around, especially when you're feeling worthless, especially when you're feeling depressed, when you're feeling alone, when you're feeling hopeless, when you're feeling lost, confused, out of control. But at the same time, I think this is an opportunity for tremendous introspection, for learning about yourself in a way that is much deeper than what maybe the average person or every person has the opportunity or takes the time to do. I think it's important to learn about yourself, to find out what in this life, what in this world would make you feel fulfilled. What in this world, what in this life would make you feel full, would make your life feel full? And that's a really hard question, and I think a lot of people's first answer immediately sort of like instinctively snaps to finding a mate. But I think that is actually a secondary goal. Finding a mate, finding someone to share life with, which I think is incredibly important. I think it's a basic human need for companionship. But before you can get to that point, you have to build yourself. You have to build a self before you can then, again, I'm not a doctor, but to build a successful relationship, you have to build a successful person first so that they can participate in a successful relationship. So in order to be able to feel like you're living a full life, getting the most out of life and its experiences and the things it has to offer, to feel like you're in control, to feel like the decisions that you make have an effect, I feel it's important to work on yourself first. And that purpose, that building of self, I believe is the motivation that you can use to make the steps to get the help that you need. And I want to know what you think about that. I want to know in the comments below, or if you want to DM me because you'd like to have a more direct or private conversation, which I completely understand because this is a delicate issue. I want to know, what's your purpose? What would be the thing that you could build this foundation upon? What would be the thing that you could look at and say, this is a reason not to give up on this life, not to give up on the idea of living a fulfilled life. What do you choose out of life? And how can you do the things necessary to get from where you are right now to that place? How can you do those things? I believe that I have an idea, and I know it's something that worked for me. And it wasn't my idea. It was a good friend of mine who told me a couple of really wise things. And so I want to share those with you, and I will do that next week on my final episode. So thanks for watching, and I hope I said something that maybe can start a conversation. And if you don't have anybody to have that conversation with, now you do.